So good morning, everyone, and first of all, many thanks for Romatza for the outstanding organization of this event. Everything is perfect, and the thematic is very well chosen, so many thanks for that. Many thanks also to the previous speakers and to Predrag. I'm not sure I should thank you or blame you because you addressed already many points I wanted to discuss in this panel. But as I said, we will elaborate a bit. Before hosting the distinguished panelists on the stage, Predrag killed already off all my introduction, but let me maybe come back on some points you addressed during your panel, and I will a bit elaborate on it. First, I would like to come back on what has been said. Resilience is a shared responsibility. There is no doubt on that. Maybe you have heard me already. I'm repeating that almost in all events, within all panel. The airspace is dual use by nature. The airspace is not civilian, is not military. There is one airspace shared by everyone. So we need to act together. And it is shared responsibility between civilian and military stakeholders, but also we had our annual EDA conference last week, and this has been said by the commissioner, by Madame Callas. It's a whole society approach. Resilience is a shared responsibility shared to everyone. We need to keep that in mind. One point also on which I would like to come back, obviously we need to be resilient, we need to be prepared, but we need to be prepared now. Very often we are talking about civil-military cooperation, resilience, but we need to act now. This is essential. You have heard Flor talking about military mobility, saying that we need cross-border operation, we need shorter diplomatic clearance or notice for the diplomatic clearance. We need to do it now. Also, you have maybe heard about the document released by the Commission, EU Defense Readiness Roadmap 2030. 2030 is tomorrow, so we need to act now. Now. This is important. And many things that are also in these documents will impact civilian stakeholders, INSPs, airlines. We have heard about drone, for instance, this morning, and in the defense readiness documents, there are some flagship projects. There is an EU drone shield, there is an EU air shield, there is a space shield. So just to say that all these initiatives will have some implications on all aviation stakeholders. We need to keep that in mind. We have heard about interoperability, we have heard about data exchange. So this is what we will discuss concretely now in this panel. So in order to discuss all these important topics, please welcome on the stage our distinguished panelists. And let's start with Maria Algar-Ruiz from EASA. So Maria, please. I have many questions for you on the regulation and civil-military cooperation in this domain. So, please welcome also Brigadier General Johan Michi. I don't know if I pronounced well your name. So welcome, and you will bring your views on the operational, from the operational perspective. This will be more than welcome. So welcome. Please also welcome Magdalena Jaworka-Makowiak, CEO of PENSA, for the INSP views. So welcome. And last but not least, not sure I need to introduce you, but welcome Razvan Bukuriu, and your perspective regarding what can be done at network level will be more than welcome. So welcome. So let's start with the first question. As I said, let's try to be very pragmatic. So in the framework of your current responsibilities and in light of my long introduction and what has been said also before by the previous speakers and panelists. What does resilience mean for you, very shortly? So, Maria.
So, for me, be ready. Sorry. So, well, first of all, good morning, everybody, and also I want to, from EASA side, to thank Romața for the invitation, and also the Romanian Civil Aviation Authority and the Romanian authorities for this great event, and also congratulations to Romața for the first NSP implementation of IFFS. So resilience for me is be prepared to act as you need in accordance with the constraints that you need in all situations, and of course maintaining safety, security, and your activities as you need to do. So be prepared to act in accordance with the constraints.
Johan?
Good morning, firstly. I'm happy to be here. For us, the military is very simple. We must be able to recover our capacity to continue to fight after the first hitting of the adversary over our forces. So it's very easy. Doesn't matter if we use the civilian means, you know, or civilian services, or we recover our own forces. Thank you.
Madalena.
Okay.
Yes, good morning, and thank you for this event, and thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts. You know me, I will be practical and short. However, now with this answer, I would like to quote what was said by Jacopo and Nico. Jacopo said that this is now stability of political instability, but the resilience for the NSP, especially close to Ukrainian border, means that we need to be stable with the stability of instability. Right, and stable, it means that I need to provide stable conditions for all Panzer employees, not only for the ATC. Stable, it means that the military can count on us, right, 24 hours, with really short notice, and I have for later some of the data how we are reacting, and this is the way how we do it. So this is first, which was Jacopo, and then Nico said that we need to have capacity to adapt. And this is also somehow that we need to secure that we really have some buffer, so we are thinking 5 steps ahead, because we need really to adapt, not to think that we maybe will be required to adapt, but we need to adapt honestly every day. So this is the resilience, a part of the well-known answers.
Good morning, dear colleagues, and many thanks also from my side for the excellent organization of this event. And not also that, I would like to congratulate Romața for the excellent implementation of FFIs, to be grateful for the cooperation that we had over the past 4 years on this very subject. We are cooperating on many, many other subjects. And only this cooperation made possible this smooth implementation, the first in the world. And I was proud to hear that in one country in the network manager area in the European Union, we are the first ones in the world to implement this very, very important concept. To be honest, it was something that touched all of us, and let's go and let's move forward from here. Coming back to resilience, for me, resilience means adaptability, means harmonization, means extreme and pragmatic cooperation. This is what means resilience, and I'm talking for a very, very practical point of view, because the number of crises that we had to handle recently and the way in which all together we had to work to adapt showed us that if we are not harmonized, if we don't have strong and pragmatic cooperation without too much talking and blah, blah, we cannot get there. We cannot continue safe operations and normal operations, or close to normal operations, in the European airspace. Thank you, Christoph.
Thank you. Now I have a follow-up question, because you said, okay, we need to adapt. For me, this means we need to be flexible. But I have heard also this morning that we need more predictability. So I'm lost now. Flexibility or predictability? Where is the limit? for everyone?
Yeah, it's really an interesting question. And again, let's be practical. Yeah, unfortunately, during this month of February, we are looking backwards at events that have happened in 2014, at events that have happened in 2022, and on all those moments when parts of the Ukrainian territory, initially in 2014, and then the aggressive invasion in 2022 have happened, there we saw that we were prepared. And why we were prepared? First of all, because we worked for many, many years to implement harmonized concepts. Flexible use of airspace, crisis management, free route airspace, and I will come back to that too. You know, for me it was interesting to see that by implementing cross-border free route airspace, how much this has helped actually in addressing crisis situation and how this brought to us the facility of the flexibility of the airspace. Then a clear integration in terms of systems, data exchange, that brought us the resilience of sharing this information with the constant update of the demand. And these were additional elements that all together we have put in place together with the airlines, the airports, the NSPs, the network manager, bringing a constant update of the demand, where this demand is going, how this is going to develop. Then a dynamic planning. We are not planning anymore just let's plan 5 years in advance, we have a beautiful plan, we stop there, we go home, and we come back next year to redo it. Now it's weekly, it's almost daily planning, updating constantly, updating the data that comes from the, again, from all the community of the operational stakeholders. The flexible planning of major military exercises. We have recently a lot of lessons learned from major military exercises. And I would like to highlight a couple of things here. If you look at all the Ukrainian interface, Central, Southeastern Europe, and the way in which all these events have been handled, I think those are lessons learned for the other parts of the network. I don't want to be provocative and arrogant, but I doubt that in other parts of the network we would have been able to continue the normal traffic flows as it was the case in this part of the network. I have my very, very big doubts, because here we have seen flexibility, adaptability, integration, a massive cross-border free route airspace that helped us in finding routes to avoid the dynamically created military areas, the way in which the integration, the system integration between civil and military was also extremely critical, a good planning of the CNS infrastructure that ensure a comprehensive coverage and a coverage that was not subject to too many vulnerabilities. And I think those are things that need to be looked, expanded from what we have learned in this place. We had similar lessons learned in the context of NATO discussions on these, and those were things that were very much appreciated. I think from this interface with Ukraine, on how the states, the NSPs, the military authorities have reacted here, there is a lot to be learned by the other parts of the network. Thank you, Christophe.
Thank you. Normally the French are arrogant, so you see, I can see that you can be a bit French, so it's good. Let's continue with this notion on flexibility with you, Maria. Sorry, maybe I will be a bit provocative with you, but from my understanding, flexibility is not compatible with regulation. So how are you integrating flexibility in EASA regulation, and what is the limit until which you are raising a red flag?
Thank you, Christophe, for the very good questions. And I will build of what Razvan has said, also the colleague from Ukraine. So actually, already regulations build on flexibility. Flexible use of aerospace is one. So you are you certified to use flexible use of aerospace tools. So it's even part of your certification that you can be flexible. aerospace design, aerospace structure, so you can build on flexibility. But I think here what the colleague said, the Ukrainian colleague said, so how you can keep out so a civilian certification when you have a lot of constraints that impediment you always to ensure compliance with those regulations. Actually, in the EASA framework, we have the flexibility provisions, which is always in any circumstances you are able to act to an unforeseen circumstance, being well, a threat to your country, or a very obvious safety threat that can be created by security issues. So this flexibility provision is in there, and how to practically do it. So, of course, is a quick reaction. So you don't need to amend any regulation. So if you ask me, so let's amend regulation. It takes years to do that. So these flexibility provisions can be used in those cases, also built on how you can be prepared for that. Part of the military mobility package is the concept of regulatory sandboxes that can be applied also to gain experience on how to deal and how to incorporate flexibility in your normal operations, and how then based on that you can adapt your existing operations and operational procedures and way how you do things to manage those flexibilities as a part of your regular operation. Being the training, new training methods, being ways to oversee your infrastructure, not like in the past, because you are not able using drones for various purposes. So all these can be used as a part of existing framework. Where is the red flag? For us, of course, safety is non-negotiable. And I think Razvan has also said, and other colleagues will agree with us, so we need to keep an acceptable level of safety. And in Europe, we can say we have an incredible level of safety today, but still we should not be conformist. We always need to improve. So we need to be able to manage the two things together. Collaboration with your civil aviation authorities, coordination, cooperation, discussions, understandable. So we need to, as also authorities, learn to be flexible, that this rule may not be adapted to this situation. So what will be the acceptable means of comply with the rule, that it may not be exactly the one that we are using since the past 50 years. So also from that point of view, authorities need to innovate in the way how they are going to deal with this keeping changing environment in which we are. We need to improve, be better, be flexible, but also be ready for what is happening.
You said something that is interesting when you said safety is not negotiable. This is maybe a very slight difference with the military, because for the military, and I will give the floor to you, and safety is not negotiable in peacetime. When we are moving to the crisis time, it's a risk assessment between safety and security. So this is maybe something, but this is a transition for you, Johan, and regarding, we discussed flexibility on also risk assessment between safety and security. One thing that civil ATM or aviation often underestimates about military needs, is it this kind of risk assessment? Is it flexibility? Is it another topic?
Firstly, I want to mention that for us, regarding the previously speakers, it's very important to be predictable. The predictability is the base of safety and also the trust between all actors which use airspaces. Think what means to change rules permanently. To the predictability, everybody have the opportunity to change TTPs, to set up everything to be safety, and to adapt to these needs. Of course, through flexibility, we are able to manage, let's say, most daily-to-daily operations. Also, on the short terms, we are able to perform our operations. But regarding the safety, also for us is paramount. Doesn't matter if we perform operation during the peacetime, crisis, or for the war. The safety is the most important rule for everybody, because we wanted to have all aircraft on the ground after the mission. We don't want to, let's say, keep our men and our aircraft to fly without rules. So most important for everybody and for us like military is to know what follows on the short and medium terms in order to have the flexibility to negotiate with the partners, with the civilians, the rules how to use the airspaces without interview between our operations. And in Romania, fortunately for us, I can tell you that we, like military, since that we don't have restriction, because we have a very good cooperation with the civilians. They understood very well our needs. We understood very well their needs. So together with special structures, we manage in the past, we will manage also in the future, all these things. So the safety is most paramount for everybody.
Thank you. Coming back to flexibility, Madalena, is it compatible with the NSPs? Because very often we are listening to the ATCO saying we need predictability. So how do you manage now the increased flexibility we need?
This is something that it comes, of course, with firstly trust we have Panzer and the military, right? Because after 4 years, we really have a lot of experience, mostly good, but also some lessons learned how to improve. And then, you know, now a part of this, what is going on in Ukraine, we have, together with our Lithuanian colleagues, this balloons experience as well, right? And then, what simply it is our daily life today, it is that we have the biggest number of the areas which can be easily, they are booked and then can be easily activated. Almost 1/4 of the European number of areas is Polish, right? So this is really something which is existing, and this is our daily life. And then I have some of the data I told you, right, with the 2025, but even last Friday, right, that almost the whole eastern part of Poland is 24 hours booked and easy for the ad hoc activation, right? And ad hoc, it is really ad hoc, right? And then this is for ATCO, then to use vectoring even just to resolve conflict, right? And this is, you know, a part of all of the technology we discuss. We need to be ready when it is, you know, the almost every day, honestly, right, to provide the service like this. And then, you know, then it is all of the, whatever, the RASVAN requirements, all of the safety or military, everything like this. So this is a part of the huge discussion we have about the technology. We need to be ready to provide service like this. And one, what I would like to mention, even it is not exactly what we are talking about, it is also that we need really to keep in mind that the cybersecurity of what we do, right? This is also the 24 hours, which is a huge challenge, huge threats, and huge everything, including huge number of daily problems. And then when we are also talking about the resilience, it is also somehow that we, you know, for the really future, which is medium and long term, we need to also keep in mind that the cyber requires us to, my thinking at least, and my experience in Panzer is that we need to be resilient in the other way, then we are also upgrading ourselves. Otherwise, we will have, you know, the same, which would or might not be enough, honestly, right? So this is something I would like to mention. Because one issue is, you know, as Razvan said, existing frames, experience, and then, but then the daily life is coming. And then, honestly, if you do not hear about us, I mean, in Poland especially, but if you do not hear about us in Europe, it means that it works, right? And then, of course, I like when you mention Panza, but honestly, I mostly like when you do not mention Panza.
So I will not mention Panza in my follow-up question. I will adapt. I want to come back on something that has been said this morning by the chief of the Romanian Air Force. He said that resilience is not only the systems, is not only the procedures, but resilience is also people. And I would like to ask you a question regarding the mindsets. In light of the current geopolitical context and all the tensions that are happening, and obviously the current Russian war aggressions against Ukraine, did you not a change of mindset in terms of civil-military cooperation, in terms of taking more collective, more EU rather than national? Did you not some evolutions? So a question for all of you. Maybe let's start with Maria.
So definitively, Christophe. Actually, this situation, I think he has definitively required to have much more cooperation with the network manager, see the Triple C, be much more ready to react also from EASA side, but also from the civil aviation, to think more on dual use, to think more on how to work more at the end. If you don't have security, you have a direct impact on safety, like the cybersecurity, so to work more on cybersecurity part of the certification, to have more discussion with the military partners, EDA. Yeah, definitely the mindset has changed. It's not anymore, so we do the civil side and you do the military side. It's more, it has required that we work together. So there is no other answer that, yes, the mindset have changed. And we need to think on how to work together, to be prepared, to be resilient.
Like military, we permanently try to find solution, to continue our training, and to not have restriction in our operation during the crisis and peace. And in my opinion, we made very important steps after Ukrainian war started. And today we can tell you that I can tell you that we operationalized, for example, cross-border units and also cross-border corridors. And we are able, like military, to cross the border in another country when operational air traffic rules, under operational air traffic rules, not like general air traffic rules. And probably a few years ago, it wasn't impossible to find that solution, But we need more than that. We need more blocks of airspaces between countries in order to travel without restriction, because we are a single army in Europe. We cannot continue to have our own responsibility just over our own airspaces, because we probably in the future we will see that we will have common air forces inside Europe. So for that, people, politicians and countries must understand that airspaces is not just national, it's European. So for military, it's very important to find this solution. We have, we make the big steps, but it's not enough for us at this moment. So it does mean that we change our mindset. We, together with civilian, we find these rules, and we continue to work on that to develop further solution for that.
I tell you something about mindset, but once you need to get used to what is going on for years. From the other hand, you cannot get used to war close to your door. So this is for sure, but something I would like to mention, now it's solved, but it was really kind of the critical, at least for Panza, when we were starting discussing the 25 and 29 RP. Then we were asked by our clients and our friends, airlines, to reduce staff and investments purely because, you know, the airport traffic is growing, and this is really growing. The en route and transit flights, they are flying to our friends in other countries. And then if you hear that you need to reduce your people, right, it is leading you nowhere, right? So it was for us, for this mindset to be somehow to feel stable and secure and be ready for the traffic recovery, because this readiness, this is our obligation as well. It was to provide kind of the planning which is also stable for people who need to firstly deliver more complexity or more complex service purely because of even what I mentioned about last Friday. But for the second, that you know, this is about the modernization, the whole event. And then if I reduce investment, it means that I downgrade Panza. If I downgrade any NSP, it means that the plan is to close it, right, or something. So this was something that it was for a while not easy, but at the end, and I'm grateful for the airlines and the Commission and all of those who approved the way how we were thinking, that the readiness for the traffic recovery, even if we don't know when, and we have Razvan's, I mean, an N and Razvan's scenarios, this is the way how we are building the future. Otherwise, you will never be ready to have enough people, to be ready to provide safe and secure and 24-hour service and invest, because then mindset and stability of people, you know, would be at risk, right? So this is something which is at least from our perspective, it was the key, and it still is the key.
Yeah, this question is very interesting, and I would say the answer is yes and no. First of all, the yes is because, especially for those who were under concrete crisis situation, Ukraine, but also all the neighboring NSPs, it was clear that everything that was discussed before, agreed before, the way in which we should work, that at times, to be honest, appears to be theoretical, has been implemented on the spot. And that shows that all the work that we have done all together actually worked. It was impressive to see also the level of knowledge that has been put in all this, even if in some cases, with respect to crisis management, for instance, we had only exercises, training, etc., but that was inside the DNA of everybody who was involved in that. Also very, very important in the, let's say, in the context of the reopening, it was impressive to see the readiness of all the neighbors, together with the Ukrainian colleagues, to support and to help, ready to test the connectivity of the systems, ready to test letters of agreement, everything that would lead back to reintegration for normal operations. Another positive thing in that, and that was a big wake-up call also, was the inter-regional cooperation. Because it's not only between ourselves in the network manager area, in the European Union, there is the cooperation between regions. Because conflicts of this size, but not only the conflicts in Ukraine, the conflicts that we have seen, for instance, and they are still not settled in the Middle East, they indicate how important inter-regional cooperation is. And that was another element where we have seen how quickly everybody has adapted to that, how quickly we from the European area were able to talk to our colleagues in the Middle East, to talk to our colleagues in Southeast Asia, because here in that region, we are ensuring the world connectivity. There was a lot about connectivity today from Western Europe to the Black Sea, etc. No, that corner of the network ensures the world connectivity. And this is fundamental. We would stop the world economy if all this interface will stop working properly. So this is for the yeses. We have realized that very quickly all these things have been put in place and everybody was ready to cooperate. Doesn't matter from where, mindset, political views, religion, and so on, because when we are talking about inter-regional cooperation, there is a lot of that needs to be put into equation, and this is very human. It's not only political, it's very, very human, and you need to be careful to preserve the connectivity of those things. And then there is the no. I still believe that as we move more into the western part of the network, there is not yet the same wake-up call. I think there needs to be a much better understanding of what is happening here, of the need to have real-time civil-military coordination, of the need to have the adaptability of the airspace at any time in order to preserve intact the civil traffic flows and not to restrict them at all. And I would like to understand the traffic flows in that region have not been restricted at all, not from a capacity point of view, not from a, let's say, routing, okay, because this is geography, you can't do anything about that, but they have not been restricted. And I would love that some of other colleagues, some other ANSP's colleagues from other places would come to sit a little bit in the control rooms in Warsaw, in Bucharest, in Budapest, in Sofia, in Bratislava, to see a little bit how complex it is. Just to see a little bit how complex it is, how things are happening in real life. There is no planning, there is a need for air police, there is a need to come quickly to do an air-to-air refueling. This is happening live, without any interruption, any restriction of the civil traffic flows. So I think there needs to be this mentality of more flexibility, less rigidity from both the civil and the military sides in order to be ready in a similar manner to accommodate both civil and military needs to the levels that these are being accommodated today at these interfaces. I was also surprised in other contexts, not in this gathering, but in another type of gathering towards the end of last year, to see also that at basic questions like who is responsible in your country to switch from civil control of the airspace to military control of the airspace, some states had difficulties to respond to that very basic question. So I think there is a little bit of learning to take place and a lot to learn from this interface that is actually living with that each and every day.
You anticipated a bit my follow-up question. I said in my introduction, we need to be prepared for a potential conflict now. Yes, I said it 3 times, remember. This has been said also by our Ukrainian colleague. Do you think today we are prepared already? And if not, what is missing? The most important thing that is missing from your perspective?
So I think you can never be prepared for that. And what is missing, probably, if I hear Razvan intervention, what is missing perhaps is a share of practice and incorporated those already existing practice in the normal day-to-day business. So how to do that, how easily is to do that, how quickly can we do that? Not sure, but yeah, probably what is missing is to start working on all these lessons learned that the Ukrainian colleague has said, be ready on this, do this, we learn by that. Maybe all these lessons learned, they should be sort of incorporated like today. In your country, when there is a flood, you receive an alert. So people have learned that, by the hard way, unfortunately, that if you don't have those alerts, you are not ready. So maybe that we need to incorporate this sort of practice in day-to-day business.
Yuan?
For us, predictability was very important. So when we found what we need for the future war and training for us, we started to discuss with the civilian. We found together a solution, and for example, we redefined last year entire volume of Romanian airspaces. So in this moment, I can tell you that we train like we wish to fight in the future. We have no restriction at this moment, and I hope also the civilian to be on my mind. I mean, also they have no restriction because we are able to use flexible use of airspace at the same time. So fortunately for us, I can tell you that we train very well Romania airspaces without restriction, using the flexibility of airspace and also the predictability.
But just to continue a bit on that, do you think that you said we are prepared within Romania? Do you think we are prepared at the EU scale?
At level of Union European, no, we are not prepared in this moment. Probably in the western part, the traffic is very crowded. I don't know why. Probably they cannot find solution like Romania. I cannot tell you in the name of the other countries. But from Romanian part, like I have told you, we seem to have more flexibility using the cross-border, and to be able in the future to fight in the airspace of other countries, to have no restriction. And speaking about using the airspace and no limitation for civilian during the crisis and the war, it is impossible in this moment because, unfortunately, nobody invented the missiles which can choose between civilian aircraft and military aircraft. Think that we launch missiles at about 1,000 kilometers. 100 kilometers, we are not able to see what is there. We see just small points of our radars and we launch our missiles. So during the crisis and during the war, we must have the control of airspaces in order to avoid what happens in Ukraine with civilian aircrafts.
Without mentioning Pansa, Madalena, do you think we are prepared at the EU level?
I give you my understanding on the way how we should do it to be prepared. And some extent of our answer is yes, because at the EU level means that your bordering countries are bordering now with Ukraine, but with any issue that your bordering countries firstly are ready, right? So with this current situation, answer is yes, because you see in Poland, but in the other countries that we are managing. Of course, with a lot of internal problems, but this is the result counts. But what we do, and this is really needed, and we need it more, that a part of the discussions about the regulations and some of the formal requirements, we really need to have really close and direct cooperation with our neighbors. I mean, every week, either I see Finnish colleague in Helsinki or the Danish colleague are coming to Warsaw. This is the same with Lithuania, Hungary, and the other Sweden, right? So this is something that we really need to deeply exchange and understand on the ops or even technical level, what we do, how we can help, how we can learn, because if something is already done somewhere, maybe we do not need to rediscover the wheel. So this is the way how it should be. And then it might be, I really closely cooperate with an IRA, which is a little bit, far away from Poland, right? But of course we have different needs. But at the end, this is the way how we can, share what Razvan also said, the experience. Otherwise, you will just, at this conference, we can tell you only a little, because it is an open conference, but when you come to our ops room, or when you come to our military, or when you come with the, all of this NATO secret, then you learn. And then you see something which is, you cannot talk at this kind of event, right? So this is the way how we should do. And the answer is yes, in regions, we can be, if we, expand it into this way of cooperation.
Yeah, again, the answer is yes and no, and probably I've responded before to that question. What is interesting, and in other much more formal and let's say classified context, we were discussing about this issue. I think there is a part of Europe that is very well prepared to that, and there is another part that still needs to take the the pulse of the need to further integrate civil-military cooperation. And nobody should be afraid of that. Absolutely nobody should be afraid of that. There is no loser, no winner. There are two winners if you integrate that correctly. And this is the answer to many of the questions here. You know, how do armed forces plan their airspace planning? If you are well integrated, if you share systems, if you share infrastructure, if you share absolutely everything between yourselves, there is absolutely no problem in being prepared. What are the main obstacles to true dual civil-military use of infrastructure? Willingness. This is the true obstacle. It's willingness. There is no other obstacle.
This is linked to the question of mindset that I mentioned before.
Exactly. It's a mindset. It's willingness. Who stops you from sharing the same ATM system, for being in the same ops room, for sharing the same CNS infrastructure? Who tells you no? Can somebody tell me in which regulation this is written, that you are not allowed to do that? It is to the contrary. You are encouraged to do that. There is the NATO Rapid Air Mobility procedure that enables you in minutes to move forces to whichever extent from one end to the other of Europe with no restrictions for the military traffic. There is the OAT flight planning right now that we are able to expand it in minutes. All the ingredients are there. I think it's willingness, willingness, willingness. It's only two winners, civil and military. There is no loser here.
Yes, I fully agree with you. I will say change of mindset, but it's the same. Do you want to pick up one of the questions that are written here? I let you read them and maybe make your choice. How do you measure resilience in operational terms? Interesting. Do you have some criteria to measure your resilience? Do you have some KPI? Razvan?
First? No, you already.
So I will take the second one. So those, we have all the data exchange, first of all the necessary contacts, and a very solid exchange of, and very flexible use of data exchange with the military. So this is very easily exchanged. I must say that the civil military procedures, and I'm going to use the nickname, included in the ASM handbook, as everybody knows it, are implemented perfectly, and this is the true flexible use of airspace, are implemented perfectly by all the military in Europe, perfectly, and they work. Why they are implemented perfectly and why this is the best example of harmonization in Europe, I don't know, probably because the military are much more disciplined. But this is the best example of harmonization in Europe. And how do we measure resilience in operational terms? Probably the indicators are there. First of all, in the adaptability to handle all the traffic, and eventually we turn back to the existing indicators: how much delay you create, how you efficiently use the civil-military airspace structures. In terms of recovery time, obviously the recovery time, it is something that it is very much related to the level of the crisis. We have been able to recover very quickly when the crises were further away, for instance, Iran, Iraq, etc. All this has been easily, I'm sorry for the colleagues who had to take 1,000 flights more per day because it was completely inappropriate to talk about easily. But it was manageable to do it. When the crisis is how we have it in Ukraine, and the level of the crisis is really, really high, probably it's much more difficult it takes much longer to have the recovery than, it depends very much on that. Magda.
Just one more sentence on resilience, right? Because I'm not sure whether we should measure everything, right, honestly. Because there is a lot to be measured, no doubt, right? But the comment on this, that is we should somehow really skip, and this is not for this day's event, but just really for forever, from measuring everything. and looking for indicators, numbers, or proof of something, because some of the resilience you will never measure. You need to have contingencies, you need to have business continuity management plan or system, but this is, you need to have the recovery time, but then your daily outcome of daily service provision is, proving whether you are resilient or whether you are ready or not. And then if something is done 2 minutes later, but it's still within the 5 minutes or whatever, this should be somehow, the different way of thinking whether we should really measure everything, right? So the overall outcome of the safe and on-time service with all of those, ad hoc reactions which are needed. This is the way how we should think about resilience and sometimes escape from numbers.
Johan, allow me to ask you one question, because my friend Enrico will moderate this afternoon an interesting panel on the easy topic RP5 and on performance. And I would like to ask you a question of performance that sometimes I am asked by the civilian side. How do you measure the performance for the military?
Like military, we have specified instrument to measure the performance for our part, for military, If we speak about these topics, I mean, how to use dual the airspace with civilian. Firstly, we look at the safety events. If the civilian reports safety events, is not good for us. It's one of our instrument which we can measure our let's say, training. Because for military, it's very easy. We put X's in boxes, and we see if our pilot reach the requirements for that flight. But it's not mean that is not working for civilian. For civilian perspective, like my colleague already told you, it's important to use the correct corridors without military interference, no collisions during the flight. So one of the topics is that point. Other aspects are our reports from the Romața, because I explained also regarding the first question, how will you lose the military planning inside the Romania? Firstly, I want to tell you that for the beginning of planning of operation, we involve the civilian in our teams, okay? Of course, with limitation, because you must have access of information. And after we establish, during the peace, especially after we establish our needs, their needs, we sign a contract, like a contract between us. And after that, we start to do our operation. Both parts respect that limitation that are right there. Of course, during the crisis and pieces, the civilian remain inside our team, planning team, but our needs prevail their needs. And I think it's usual, it's normal during the crisis. But yes, we have few aspects like safety rules, like FUA concept, which must be respected during the peace. That are objectives which we measure our performance.
Thank you. And Maria, last but not least, I will ask you. No, I will take the last question to ask you my last question. The question here is: what are the main obstacles to true dual civil-military use of infrastructure? Now, in EASA, you raised the regulation linked to the certification of the ground equipment. So, is the regulation one of these obstacles or not?
No, I don't think so. Because that will be the obstacles. We could not certify the A400M civil, and basically never been used civil. It's always been used military. So. I don't think it's regulation. Regulation can be changed. As I said, there are always flexibility provisions. I think probably it's a mindset, and yes, it is true that a mindset of the colleagues that have been certified in systems for civilian purpose to the 10 to the minus 9 and to following a specific set of standards and safety objectives is maybe difficult to adapt to certification of, okay, what is the equivalent level of performance, what is the unequivalent level of safety, can we use the other stand-up instead of the Euroguide thing? So, yes, so of course is a mindset of the certification staff that needs to be trained and that needs to be then workable. The good thing, of course, we have new generation of colleagues and new generation of systems which are more digital-based, IT-based, and in that sense, more security-based. In that sense, I have good expectations that we will move towards true certification for civil military purpose, because at the end it's a question of course, what is more important, the security part, the safety part, but at the end it's all linked. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And now it's time to conclude, and in order to do that, I will ask you maybe a very easy exercise. But maybe you will have to close your eyes. Imagine that you are Madame von der Leyen. This is why you need to close your eyes. President of the European Commission. What would be the task you will give to one of your commissioner or your DG to improve resilience in the aviation, in the ATM domain, or to improve resilience simply? I will give you the task now. You, Razvan, to start.
Gave me the less time for thinking. I think the task that really needs to be there is through harmonization. It is a move towards an open digital architecture where you are able to adapt systems at a much higher speed than we are able to do it today. And the last point that I would strongly encourage is an airspace utilization concept that has a much stronger network dimension or network mentality rather than still a piecemeal approach that we are forced to apply today. I don't think in the current conditions with the civil-military complexities and with the increase in traffic, we would be able to continue with an airspace utilization concept that is very localized. We need to think wider, but through CDM processes, but CDM processes that are inclusive, pragmatic, and taking decisions, not just rejecting.
Madalena?
So task, but I closed my eyes, and this is kind of the dream, if I may, right? So, you know, resilience is practical. It is not theoretical, right? So my dream and my wish and my task to be given to someone is that whenever we are talking about real life and real resilience, please come to real life or real ops room and then think or plan or give us something which is practical, right? Because we are overwhelmed with many theoretical expectations which are not improving our practical life. So this is kind of the task or dream, whatever you call it.
Okay. Johan?
Standardization and interoperability, and also the same curricula for training of the people, which will supposed to apply ATM rules. It's very important to have the same curricula, the same manner of training of the people. This is the main objectives.
Maria?
So I don't know if it is my dream to become Ursula von der Leyen. I don't think so, but so if I were in her shoes, I will ask actually the DG of, I don't know, digitalization, enterprises, I don't know, to ensure actually digital independency, to ensure resilience, actually.
Very good points. Non-dependency, standardization, harmonization, be more concrete, pragmatic, think collective, and harmonization. This concludes our panel. So a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you very much.